think I might actually stop after this one. I don't know.
Well, part of that picked up on the recording. Hello, welcome to episode 130 of Dissonant Waves. My name is Dominic, as always. Who do we have in the hot seat today?
I'm eating 8 hot dogs.
And your name is?
Ricks.
Tricks, Ritz, both here. One of them is not eating hot dogs. One of them will die to overdosing on hot dogs. I think that's the way you wanted to go, wasn't it, Tricks?
Pretty much. Have you seen that Whitest Kids You Know sketch?
No.
Yeah, the classic hot dog Timmy.
Yeah, that's basically me.
Yeah.
So we've taken a week off, but we're back. But we took a week off because the amount of stuff we listened to this time is so magnanimous. It's literally over 12 hours of content.
Yeah.
And we are back now to talk about it as best we can. Of course, I am talking about Trix has chosen the 2 new Mac DeMarco albums, of course, 5 Easy Hot Dogs, as well as One Wayne G, the 199-track, 8-some-hour album.
8 hours and 43 minutes.
Yes. I have chosen 100 gecs' remix album, 1000 gecs and the Tree of Clues, digital edition, of course, as well as the new Draught EP from Guitar Fight with Fooly Cooly. And Ritz, to amp up the comedy, I guess, has chosen TISM's De Rigueurmortis as well as their rock opera Two-Pot Screama.
Yeah.
So,
I think
which one should we start with?
I think we should just start going down the rabbit hole and just start with the shallowest thing in terms of content and go with Guitar Fight with Fooly Cooly from Fooly Cooly.
Alright, do you want to do an introduction to this, or can I put my take onto this?
I mean, Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooly is a emo band. They hail from the Midwest. Is it Nebraska? I have to look at this up real quick. They hail from somewhere. But this is a quick 4-track little EP. They're from Tennessee. They're from Cleveland, Tennessee. They are clearly influenced by the anime Fooly Cooly. But, yeah, what's your take?
So, I'm not surprised that you picked this, because, I mean, the opening track on this is called Black Hole City, and I can already see quite a lot of similarities, not simulations, similarities to Origami Angel. They sound like the middle ground between Origami Angel's softer side and the heavier side, and the more hardcore side. And I don't hate this EP when I'm putting out on my take on here. I think it's all right. But there was something that was kind of irking me about it. Like, I just didn't like. And I think it is mostly because I'm doing those comparisons to everything else in the scene. I think they are trying to do the middle ground for it, but the middle ground just isn't as good. Like, it's still good, but I would have preferred if we're either going to get one side of it, that we just get full on of it, or we get that a full more heavier album to hear. And well, I guess it's an EP. I shouldn't say album on here. In the end, I just came away wanting to like this a lot more than I actually could.
I think, for me, there's 2 songs here. Black Hole City is the one song, Wooden Cross is the other. And what happens in the middle, I kind of just don't remember ever. Like, they kind of come and go. Like, they're not terrible songs. They're just more forgettable than the vocal lines on Black Hole City, and then the guitar lines on Wooden Cross. Those stand out a lot more. And I think this is more of a hardcore thing. This isn't, like, as heavy as, like, Deep Heart, right? Like, that EP was 3 tracks that were pure fire. This is a little bit more reserved, a little bit more held back, but I think it's still more on that side of things than the Return, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, if we're going to make the easiest comparison. But for this to be 2 years in the making, I wonder what they would have gone through to make to just come up with this, to just come up with these 4 tracks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to make any legitimate. What's the word I'm thinking of? I'm not going to start any rumors or anything here about what's gone over there in the past 2 years. I don't think this is 2 years of effort. Yeah, songwriting takes time. There's probably a bunch of scrap songs, like it is with basically any release that gets out there. And so, yeah, I'm not going to make any judgments or false claims or anything about that when I don't know what's happened on here. and all this to sound rushed. I don't think that's an issue with this, but I would have a hard time believing that this would be the sound that they started 2 years ago, and then said, "Yeah, finally, after 2 years of working on the exact same project, we're finally finished." There definitely had to have been some changes or something.
Sure, because I know their last.
My phone randomly started playing Pup Apologies in case that got picked up.
Nope, it did not.
Nope.
Okay, good.
Some people really seem to like their album Soak, and it in 2 years in the sense that this is the first big release because they had Pyramid released in 2021 November as the single for this EP. But it does say 2 years in the making and more to come on the Bandcamp page, and that's kind of where I'm referencing it. Like, is it just referencing 2 years since Soak? Or is it really being like, yeah, this is what we came up with from these 4 tracks from what we've worked on in that time? Because they could have had
I would feel like there's definitely going to have to be more for reference to Soak. If it was an album, I would believe it, but I think with an EP, surely they haven't been working on it since Soak came out.
I mean, they could just have a one-way G's amount of content in the background, right? And this is just what they've chosen to represent what they've worked on.
If they've had a one-way G amount of content in their backlog from this, and this is the EP that they've chosen from it, I'm probably not going to be too interested in listening to them into the backlog. To be honest, I've never really listened to Guitar Fight and Fooly Cooly before this EP. I have been aware of them. I just never really listened to them. I don't really know what Fooly Cooly is. Obviously, you're a bit more aware of that, Dominic, since you already said it's an anime.
It's like one of the 3 animes I've watched, and that's just because I saw the Rickenbacker 4001, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta watch this.
Yeah, it's one of those animes that got really popular from Adult Swim in the US because it was like, hey, it's 6 episodes. It was something that was like big at the turn of like I think it came out in like 2000, 2001. And it's really weird and really dense with content for 6 episodes, so people really attach themselves to it. Mm-hmm. I could go into it more as it being like a product that was made in kind of response to Neon Genesis Evangelion, but I won't. But
it's also like a weirdly bass-centric anime, which is kind of cool.
But there's a lot that happens.
I can see why you've watched them tricks, but going on to it, this band just with the amount of bands that we've listened to in this scene and how wide and varied it's been in its sound, I mean, granted, you're always going to get in every scene. There's going to be bands that sound like another. I mean, let's talk about the Western Sydney rap scene in Australia. They totally aren't clout chasers there. So it's definitely not going to be an exclusive thing, no matter what it is. And I feel like if it is any band that I'm not going to make any too much comparisons when I don't really have all the examples in my head. But this band, I'm not calling them clout chasers because it's fifth wave emo. What clout is there to chase? I don't think they have too much of a standout sound or really any other gimmick to them or anything that makes me just too interested to go back to their previous work or anything like that and judge it there. Maybe their earlier stuff sounds a bit different, so maybe it would be worth. But this is one of those outings that you go to and you go like it's fine, I like it, but I'm not in love with anything that I'm hearing that I want to explore it more.
I mean, I more chose this because I kind of want to get back more into the fifth wave scene a bit, and this is kind of one of the, I think, bigger-ish new releases that's been happening these last few months. Like, it's not...
Until literally something very important got announced a week ago.
Yeah, like, Home Is Where's new album's coming out in a couple months, and you could say even OK Cool's new album's out now, and that's adjacent-ish.
It's hardly even a couple of months for the Whaler. It's June 16th, isn't it?
Oh, shit, a month.
Yeah, by the time this episode's released, it's not even a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be like you'll blink and it'll be out.
Yeah.
Like what else is there to talk about? Like the Origami Angel had their new single, and it's kind of cheesy and fun, I think. But we can talk about that at a different point.
I think you're at the point for Origami Angel where no matter what they release, you're still going to like it. Which there are bands that would be like that for. I've given it a couple listens. I'm not into new Origami Angel either.
But like the thing to compare, like the only thing that's come out that we've covered is the new Paranol stuff. So
Yeah.
there's no fight there, right? Like Paranol's operating on a different level right now. So
Oh yeah. Like if you told me to rank between Paranol and Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooly 100 out of 100 times, it would be Paranol. I don't think I could get cooked enough to make a take that different. And again, that's not even a negative to Guitar Fight. It's just how good
sure, absolutely.
the other players in the scene. And there's some other stuff from the scene that we haven't covered, which has come out this year, which I think has been really good as well. I mean, the new Chinese football record I thought was a really good return for the band.
Yeah, we still have to cover that. I know we still have like legacy stuff still to cover. Like I still want to do Weather Day at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's plenty of like gas in the tank for us to cover, but at least for the moment, we're kind of waiting. I think on the biggest new releases this year for the scene.
I mean, there was also the Momentary Warmth record. There was
we did that. That's true.
Yeah, there was the Home is Where collaboration album or compilation album. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. I'm forgetting stuff.
There's the other stuff that we have covered, and those. I mean, even Momentary Warmth really like. For that, it was mostly just a couple friends doing songs with acoustic guitars that had some production with it. But I still think it was probably a bit more noteworthy than this EP is.
Noteworthy L1?
Like, I want to really... Like, there's not really much else to talk about what this record does, because it has a bit of hardcore elements into it, and obviously it has that twinkly math rock guitar that happens at times, but I don't think it's really too math rocky, surprisingly.
No, I think it tries to say more in the hardcore realm. And maybe they're not as hardcore as other stuff, but it's just that. Like it's
and if you like hardcore, you'll probably like this EP, because like I like hardcore, and I still come away like liking the songs. I'm not gonna ever say skip that shit to this. It's fine, but its problem isn't that the band isn't writing good songs. It's not that they can't play their instruments. It's not that the vocals suck or anything like that. It's just that it's drowned out by a lot of better content.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I don't know, it being like a sandwich of an EP for me doesn't really help it either.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking favorites, least favorites, I think Black Hole City's the standout. Wooden Cross is pretty good too. The other two just don't stand out as much, like I said.
I think Black Hole City, you're right, is the absolute standout from this. That there is one. And yeah, I'll probably just have to agree with you, in spite of being lazy.
Yeah.
You didn't really talk about much how you felt about this. If you want to summarize it at least.
I quite like the CP. I couldn't really just find places to chime in, but this is one of those EPs that like I hadn't heard about until you like posted about it, and now that it's on my radar, I think I have to go back and listen to Soak, because I quite enjoyed this, but I think I'd like to hear more of it, and I'm definitely going to pay attention to them to see what comes out in the future.
I mean, maybe he'll have to be the barometer for us and tell us if maybe this was not the right entry point. Maybe Soak was the right entry point.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Yeah. Do you have any favorites or least favorites?
I actually quite enjoyed Pyramid. I remember quite enjoying the riffs on that.
Okay. It is the single, so you'd figure that'd be more of the thing, but interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Since you didn't talk as much, what do you want to talk about next?
Well, in recognition of the 8 hot dogs I have consumed so far, let's talk about 5 Easy Hot Dogs.
Okay, I really don't have that much to say about this, honestly.
This fucking sucks.
Yeah, this.
Look, I love the Mac, but God, you can't do instrumental stuff that well.
I mean, I don't think it's okay. I can't exactly talk about this album without the context of one Wayne G behind it.
Yeah.
So to separate them, I guess, for a second, like, if this was all there was, it's more
this would be good. This would be good. It wouldn't be, but like knowing that there's so much like archaeology to go through with like one Wayne G, this is just okay.
like it's more confusing than anything of like what was so special about this stuff that was like, yes, let's release this as its own thing.
Well, if you read it looks like it was recorded on the road.
Yeah, so a good portion of the 2022 stuff that Mac made, I guess, was recorded on the road.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna say, Ritz?
Well, I was saying, with the whole context of One Way and G, One Way and G isn't the outtakes of this album. It's what was basically left on his computer whilst there. This was the album that was specifically made to be an album. And as the interviews he did around this time talked about, he was quitting smoking. He was writing this basically all whilst on tour, and this is the outcome that we got from it. And yeah, it's probably the worst Mac DeMarco album we've listened to.
Yeah,
I know we were all a bit more fond of Here Comes the Cowboy than most critics were. I thought Here Comes the Cowboy was a pretty funny shitpost. You two thought it was better than Infest the Rat's Nest, which is an even bigger shitpost than the album itself.
I changed my mind on that like a couple years ago.
I have not changed my mind on that at all.
But that being said, one of the big draws to Mac DeMarco is his slacker style and his slacker vocals.
Yeah, his voice is a really prominent feature of his music, and when he does instrumental, it's just like, this is like drinking beer without the alcohol.
Well,
I don't know about that.
When he's relying on the instrumentals, he's relying on, and it's the big problem, is that every song on this album is actually done 20 seconds in, and it's just the same shit for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Now, when he has all these vocal performances and lyrics and stuff like that, it's enough for it to all keep going, because there's at least something to hear, some different words to hear along to, and all that. But when he's doing the instrumentals, and the instrumentals get all as repetitive as they are, it's basically saying, could Mac DeMarco do a house album in his style? And the answer is no.
I don't know if I agree with that. But that's not this conversation yet.
This is it's like if you describe Mac DeMarco as his music being run through a filter of cough syrup. This is homeopathic cough syrup.
Like, I mean,
now, I'm going to say as well, Dominic, from my take, that is without the context of One Way and G.
Yes, like I think there are things in this album that are interesting. Like I think Gualala 2, I thought, was reminiscent of like a JRPG track, like Chrono Trigger or something like that. Yeah, and I was really intrigued by that. And I think there are a couple other things here and there that are similar. Like, oh, that's cool. I like that. Like when he counts off in the beginning of Gualala 1, or just the flutes that come in Portland too, because again, with One Way G, you know where those flutes kind of are, right? You hear the context of like the other things he was trying. Not trying to talk about that too much, but
yes,
there are things, I guess, that it's like, okay, I get what he's going for. I get that he's trying to come off in a different way, and he is trying to, I don't know, turn a new page and do something else. But these just aren't the tracks.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, Domino. Do you know what the title is a reference to? Because you're the film guy of this podcast.
I don't know what it's a reference to.
The 1970 Jack Nicholson movie, 5 Easy Pieces.
I could have guessed that. I've just never seen the movie to really pay attention.
I didn't even know that movie existed.
Yeah, I mean, that's hardly... Jack Nicholson was on fire in the 70s.
Yes.
But, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, Chicago is nice. Like, I could say, oh, yeah, the use of the triangle and the guitar and the bass. Like, the way he arranges some of this stuff is really interesting and nice, just pleasant to listen to. But that's all it's got.
He's I don't know if he's playing bass on these two albums, but across it's phenomenal bass.
Like, I'm looking at my notes for this album, and I'm really just... It's really is just a prologue for One Way and G.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I'm talking about, I talk more about there.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to agree. This is probably the least favorite of the week for me by far.
Yes.
Yes, I agree too.
I mean, I don't think there's really much of a favorite or least favorite for me. Like, I guess Gualala 2 for the references I talked about, but there's nothing that's super standout.
I couldn't tell you a favorite or least favorite because it's really hard to just even remember half these songs. That's again when it's really repetitive and everything's just so uninteresting that it just kind of exists. It's I got no favorites or least favorites. I have no reason to ever listen to this again.
Blender.
Orlando.
Now, let's just cut away and just go. Let's just talk about One Way G.
This is better. This was better than I expected. I'm gonna be totally honest.
I One Way G is my favorite thing this week.
Wow.
That's just the wrong take.
I don't know if it's the wrong take, but it's a take.
See, okay, I look at it this way. This is basically someone's diary for the last 5 years that we are getting to listen to in just unedited, just whatever it is what it is. That means that there's going to be some stuff that's really repetitive. There's going to be some stuff that's wild. Like, there's a lot of wild shit on this.
The fucking long songs.
All the ambient stuff, holy shit.
It's phenomenal. I would love a Mac DeMarco, just like ambient album.
I'll put it in this way, Dominic. I fully agree that yes, this is a diary of someone and of someone's work. Basically, they've just been putting out. I mean, all the titles are basically the dates that these songs were written on,
or completed, most likely, because
completed or whatever, or the last demo date or what this is. And I mean, that garbage funk song has been known about for a while. There's that video of Mac DeMarco on his computer where he even shows that game where you had to shave Kieran J. Callanan. And that's where Garbage Funk was originally known from. So some of these demos have been known for a bit. And it's a very interesting concept. I mean, people release demo albums all the time, but who releases every single fucking file on their computer?
This is a total Mac move too, because he was always releasing demos.
And if we're going to say what's the best release that's happened out of all these albums, it's One Wayne G.
Yes,
but we're still listening to 9.5 hours and 199 songs of Mac DeMarco demos, and I've had enough times where you've judged albums that I picked when I picked deluxe songs and stuff like that, and then you judge it all on the deluxe tracks as well. I will not forget fucking Powderfinger, where you didn't like that album because you said it's the deluxe edition that we're rating, and the deluxe tracks all sucked.
That's true.
So when I go into One Wayne G here, are there some really interesting songs? Is there some really cool ideas that are actually thrown musically in here? Yes, and that covers maybe around 5 to 10% of the whole fucking thing.
See, the thing
what
is,
we're really led with is 90% of just uninteresting demos to listen to. Which, when you put into the whole context of what you're listening to, yes, it's cool and it's all being released. But when we're actually judging this as a full, proper release, like we're technically supposed to on this amateur podcast that has no bearing into real life whatsoever, then 5 to 10% of this is good. The rest is crap.
So I'm going to say,
which is still 5 to 10% better than 5 Easy Hot Dogs.
I don't think there's a single bad song on this whole thing.
Easy Hot Dogs is the name.
I don't even fucking care.
There's no single bad track on One Wayne G. First of all, there's some of them that are very uninteresting, yes, but I don't think I can consider any of them bad. Some of them are messy. Some of them are. I don't know why he would necessarily include them unless it was to get to 199. But I would venture to guess that there might be more that are just worse.
Yes.
And so to think about that, this is what he curated. I don't even know what level of curation that is. it's interesting to me. It just really is. And like from the 199, I made a Spotify playlist of my favorites. I'll even post it right now. There's 33 of them.
I believe you. Haven't you written notes for every single fucking song, and didn't you write them in full fucking detail?
I annotated this album like every other album we do. And
how many times did you manage to listen to this album in full?
3.
3 times. I struggle to get past 1. This is one of those times where I'm not going to try and convince Dominic to change his mind, because I have no reason to. But this is one of those ones where it all comes down to just personal taste. And my personal taste was, this was just too fucking much.
This was a lot of fucking Mac DeMarco.
It was.
I listened to it twice. I listened to it like once, kind of split across the week, just kind of come and go at it, chip away at it. And then today I sat down and listened to it all in one sitting, and fuck, was that a mistake.
Well,
I could not do that. I could not sit down for 9.5 fucking hours.
Well, I wasn't just listening to it. I was playing games. I was petting my cat, that sort of thing.
Anyway, sorry, Dominic.
Like, this is the thing that, like, the first couple times I had it on while I was doing stuff, right? I was driving, I was doing dishes or laundry. And the last time I did it, I kind of did what Trix had suggested at one point, is I did it, like, 10 or 20 tracks at a time. And then I would take a break, do something else, come back for another round, right? And I think that really allowed me to pay attention, focus, and dive into each track section, like, in detail, right? To get where I wanted to get and have these notes. Like, there's track 26 and 27, for example, 2019, July 26 and 28. Those tracks are pretty much the same song arranged differently. And for everything Mac has put on here, there aren't that many times that he does that. But if you're just listening to it passively, there's a good chance you're not even going to notice that it's the same track, just done 2 different ways. And that's why I'm talking about, these dates are probably when he finished this specific version, because it's 2 days apart, and they're going for 2 different things, but it's clearly the same track. So I think that's cool. I really am intrigued by his little attempts to do woodwinds here, or his attempts to do whistling there, or harmonica later on, right?
And that's why I like this album more than 5 Easy Hot Dogs.
Yeah, the talk about like,
because this does at least has a lot more fucking to it than 5 Easy Hot Dogs. Well, what I'm saying, we go into that album. Could you say which one's more consistent? Well, the consistency doesn't fucking matter when none of it's interesting enough. And yeah, there is at least some interesting stuff in here. So I'm not in this kind of like whole, how could you find anything interesting?
I don't think you are either.
That 5 to 10% is still pretty interesting. I mean, Garbage Funk I would have loved to have seen actually turned into a full song, because that's actually pretty catchy for what seems to just be a throwaway sound that he was doing in there. Yeah, there was that 22-minute basically ambient track that's just thrown in here. What if he decided to do a random ambient album or something like that? And there were moments in which I agree. I would disagree with that fucking take that I did with 5 Easy Hot Dogs. Is, could you listen to a house album? And it's like, it's gone from a no, he couldn't do it, to maybe he could.
And yeah, and like, that's why I want to say that 5 Easy Hot Dogs just wasn't it, because there's so much more evidence that he had so much more going on during this time period. Because if you're looking at what this is, right, this is the time period, like, during the making of Here Comes the Cowboy, all the way till this year.
I mean, it basically starts from late 2018. So that's after all the what was it called, This Old Dog tours and all that stuff would have done. So yeah, this is
in the early stuff. You can feel a This Old Dog kind of vibe to it.
I remember there's also been demo albums and other demos released for This Old Dog and Here Comes the Cowboy.
Yeah, the Cowboy had 2 demo albums released as well.
It did.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know exactly the relationship between the early stuff and those albums, but he didn't really put anything out between Here Comes the Cowboy and 5 Easy Hot Dogs. So this is kind of what was happening during that time. And you can kind of sense there's like a willingness to try and go off and do different things, and it's disappointing that 5 Easy Hot Dogs essentially goes back to what Mac does, because there's so much more talent. There's so much more like he is. Like this album really makes me appreciate Mac DeMarco on a whole other level, more than anything else I've listened to. Because the amount of talent, the amount of like,
I can appreciate that. Yeah,
the amount of things that are happening. Like I was talking about in the chat of comparing these songs to, or like trying to assign them to like what would they be in a video game, right? And I've done so much of that because it's really easy to think about if this is a game soundtrack. Oh, this track would probably be for a dungeon. This track would probably be for a Wild West town. This track would probably be for the bar or for the beach, right? And if you're thinking about it in that context, like I ended up doing, I ended up enjoying it a lot more because then you're like, okay, there's so much happening. It's like he's filling a composer role because he's going for different vibes. He's going for different sounds that... It's not Mac DeMarco, the guy that we're used to, who's doing really easygoing guitar, acoustic stuff. It's more of like, it's like the Green Day argument of like, Green Day can do more than what Green Day is putting out. We know this because the network exists. If they were just allowed to make the music and were comfortable at putting out the music that they genuinely wanted to make, it'd be a different conversation. And I think that's why it's important that Mac has done this, is because this is what Mac is actually doing as a person versus the perception of Mac as an artist. And it's interesting that he's done it like this because you can just say, oh yeah, that's classic Mac DeMarco to release a 199 track album. That's what he does. That's him, man. And it's easy to kind of fit that back into the image you have of him. But that also takes away from what's actually being played.
Yeah.
Like I can just let me just pick a couple random tracks, right? Like, what do I have written for track 136? 136 is when we start getting into the Chipmunk stuff, where he's speeding up his vocals and he's trying to sound a little bit different than he normally does. And I don't really have a game associated with this one, but this is one where I was kind of like, this could be something he could turn into something really cool if he gave it more time. And it's kind of me reflecting on, oh, his vocals are still really nice. He's still putting in the effort to make it sound good, even on scratch tracks. Like, he's scatting on some of these tracks. He's just saying random bullshit because he's trying to fill the space.
Simlish tracks, I referred to them as myself.
But there are other tracks that sound more like they belong in Animal Crossing. There's tracks that sound like they could be in a Harvest Moon game. Like, the beginning, like the 2018, 2019 stuff I kept comparing to like, oh, this is Harvest Moon. Like 722, the track 22, this is an NPC's theme. A lighthearted but kind of learned commander, and there's like hijinks that may be happening, but he's like the serious guy that, you kind of have reverence for, kind of like a Colonel Mustang in Full Metal Alchemist. I don't know. I find a lot to admire in what Mac has done here. And I wish we could engage on that level of just like diving really deep into like...
There's a podcast in and of itself of dissecting One Wing G.
Right, because it's like, okay, the 22-minute ambient track sounds like a Mario game, right? But there are other ambient tracks that just sound like they're just cool little, waiting room, like lackadaisical, waiting for something to happen kind of themes, or just like different modes that you listen to, and like, that's not Mac DeMarco. You would never associate with that with Mac DeMarco. Or there's like other stuff that sounds more like Muzak, or like, and there was one track I'm like, this is kind of like a city pop thing, but it's not. And I don't know what it is about this that's really like set my brain on fire a bit, but getting just the chance to really, yeah.
I was gonna say there was a real early track. I want to say it was like track 3 or 4 that just at the last 15 seconds had just like a fucking ridiculous bass solo.
Yeah,
that just set the whole tone for the album for me, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fun.
And then there's like a track like 174 where there's like an insane drum solo that just kind of starts happening, or like the drum, at least it's not like a solo that's playing with everything else, but it just like the person who's doing it is just showing off and embellishing in a way that most Mac DeMarco tracks are not. Because even a lot here, it's just a drum machine. It's just, the basic presets that he's playing around with.
Yes. This is a Fish album for 25-year-old dudes that smoke cigarettes, wear bucket hats, and cargo shorts.
Which is usually the new Fish fans.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, I even narrowed it down to like my 3 favorite tracks. Like, I was able to get it down to like, oh yeah, this is the stuff that I vibe with the most because it's the most dynamic and the most interesting. Because we still have to talk about the fact that there's like 18 tracks of like lyrical content here too.
Yeah, there's a couple
there
like
is.
I refer to them as EPs, like self-contained EPs. Like the first couple tracks with the "She Want My Sandwich" and wherever that ends. That I thought you could have just like he could have just released as an EP and like everybody would have been happy.
And that would have been better than 5 Easy Hot Dogs.
It would have been so much better than 5 Easy Hot Dogs.
Like a song like Proud True Toyota just sounds fun.
Yeah, like,
He's just singing about a fucking car.
It's along the lines of fucking Harrison Ford Focus.
Yeah. But like there's that, and I'm like, the one I love the most out of those is Stratocaster.
Stratocaster fucks.
Like when he goes to the Bossa Nova, I want a Mac DeMarco Bossa Nova album more than anything. I think
that would fuck.
He's got it. There are tracks in here that really emulate that style. Like there's no single track I want to point to that's like the perfect one, but he's really close to getting it. And again, that it's the thing of like, I wish he would just do that. I wish he would just do the ambient album. I wish he would go in those directions and experiment more with that stuff. Because if he just keeps doing 5 Easy Hot Dogs or an evolution off of that or Here Comes the Cowboy, it's like, what are you doing, man? We know you can do more.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to just keep the image that you have forever? Is that like, maybe that's like a safe security blanket, maybe? Or do you want to be like the artist that you've proven yourself to be with this?
Well, I gotta ask Dominic, because you were just saying you've narrowed it down to your top 3. What are they?
Top 3 is track 14, track 26, and Stratocaster.
With Stratocaster being your favorite, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Because track 14 is a really complex, got piano, it's got a lot of stuff happening, and track 26 was one of the shorter ones.
15 or 14? I thought you said
14. 14, my bad. And 15 is one of the shorter, or not 15, 26 is one of the shorter, like, guitar-based ones that just sounded really good. I don't know if that's Garbage Funk or not. I'm not sure which track that actually is. I know the name, but...
Garbage Funk, I think, was one of the 2019 ones. It's one of the...
Okay, that might be the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those 3 are, like, the best ones, but there is a list here of 33 that... like I like for various reasons, like shit like The Truth and Scarecrow. They're just really they're really good at hitting you.
I'd like to give a shout out to China. He's just saying China over and over again.
And like this again, this also comes back to Here Comes the Cowboy, where I really take that more seriously than just it's a shitpost album. Like,
and cowboy shit.
I mean, with the album that I chose, I don't think because you've made a shitpost, it means that you don't take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always seriousness and humor. That's
true. Yeah. And it's like I think of Choo Choo a lot, and it's so fucking stupid and funny. But that's the album.
I mean, the album. I mean, yeah, Choo Choo is one of the big ones where he's shitposting, but like the literal title track, the opener to that, where it's as minimalistic as it can be, and then there's the real fucking surreal music video.
But then you have K and Heart to Heart on there too, and there's a lot of like a big like amount of depth in between all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's why I think I vibe with this a lot, because I didn't really like 2 as much, the album, because it was like, yeah, that's him, but that's like the early him. That's like not the him that I kind of know from later on, where it seems like he's really grown as an artist, right? I think this is the true evolution of what Here Comes the Cowboy is doing. Like, 5 Easy Hot Dogs doesn't need to exist.
It doesn't. Like,
you could just make this the album that he put out in 2023.
Yeah.
Like, you can say it's a compilation album, but I feel like that's just, playing it safe.
Something tells me that this is going to be one of those albums that Mac DeMarco fans dissect for, like, years and years. And slowly but surely, every one of the unnamed songs that's just numbers will have a fan name associated with it that everybody kind of understands.
I have some of them, and I have to look through my notes specifically to find them, but I do have some.
Fair enough.
I've got nothing else to add to this.
This is a fun album, and it.
I like how
I regretted it at first, but I really came around to it.
yeah, you've
It was gonna
apologized
be
numerous
picked, Evan.
times.
It was going to be picked at some point. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I mean, was it? Are we sure about that?
Oh
It
yeah.
was. It was 100% going to get picked at some point.
I mean, just for the meme, it's the fucking 9-hour Mac DeMarco album.
Like I was saying, and like yes, it kind of got grading a little bit later on in the sense because I think his 2021 later half stuff wasn't that great comparatively. I think it was when he really started relying a lot more loops and just trying to experiment with something new, but trying to find something new, I should say, in his guitar sound that wasn't really happening. And like some of that's happened in 2022 as well, but he really kind of turned it around at a certain point. But
Yeah.
so that part of it wasn't as fun necessarily, but for a lot of this, it was the most fun I've had annotating listening to an album in a long time.
I was playing one of Dominic's favorite games while listening to this, which is Zero Escape, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
Great game.
And yeah, and I came to the realization that they could listen to this entire album while escaping the gigantic.
Yeah, they really could. And it's like, I know y'all talk about me posting my notes, and it's like maybe I can. I'd have to like transpose them because my writing is shit. But like for example, I have a 2018 930 here, and I'm just talking about farming and just some real chill Harvest Moon vibes. Imagine like watering your tomatoes listening to this kind of shit. Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna have to play some Stardew Valley later.
and it's like imagining that stuff made it so much more fun, and like that's me bringing something to the album and not just taking the album fully for what it is. But I want to see Mac DeMarco score a video game now. He should.
We should let Mac DeMarco just do whatever he wants. Like, I'd love to see the Mac DeMarco movie.
Actually, like an indie game should just take the soundtrack or take this album and make a soundtrack out of it.
I'm sure Mac would approve it too.
If it was something as chill as like a Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley, or like a nice like RPG, I think it would work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess we can move on. I could keep finding things to talk about, but I tend to ramble anyway.
I bleed to the sig, DeMarco.
I'm going to use the blender word. I don't think it's actually a blender. I'm not throwing that out. It's just it's what I'm going to use for most of it. However, the favorite is still Garbage Funk because that is that should have been made into a real song. And yeah, there are some good moments on this. I'm not going to be that. Like I said, there's 5 to 10% of this, which is interesting, and I think what's interesting is good on here. Least favorite is just the rest of it.
I can't properly give a least favorite. Like I can maybe figure out something, right? But that's gonna be like I don't know, somewhere in like the 160s or something like that. I don't, or the 120s maybe. But I can't say exactly which track. Maybe there was one that sounded really messy. I guess that wasn't super long, but it was kind of like, what are you going for? But it was more of a mystery at that point then. So that's in the 100 somewhere, whatever track that is.
Favorites for me, I like the super long ambient track. Big fan of She Want My Sandwich.
She Want the Sandwich.
She Want the Sandwich.
I
always want sandwiches.
I knew you'd like that one. I called it.
Yeah, you did. And this is just gonna be that album that I just throw on. I feel like it's gonna be better on shuffle.
Maybe.
Like if for like a party context. Like I throw this on pitch shuffle and it just sets the vibe at like a summer barbecue.
He's supposedly releasing like a CD cassette version or LP version of this. I'm curious.
God, I would buy the 30 record version of this.
Well, like, I wonder if he's gonna make it a standard thing. What does he pick?
Yeah.
Because like I have my votes of what he should pick, and he could probably pare it down from there. But I'm very curious how that relates to what he decides.
Yeah. I do hope we get a complete One Wayne G physical edition.
I would love to see that. Not yet.
I thought there was.
Maybe
I thought there was actually something announced. Hold on.
There is something announced, but
And also, since we talked about the origin of 5 Easy Hot Dogs and 5 Easy Pieces, it's worth mentioning that one Wayne G is a reference to the greatest hockey player of all time, Wayne Gretzky.
And his 99 is his number. So
Yes,
one.
99 was his jersey number, so there's 199 songs, so it's one Wayne Gretzky.
Yep. And that's the kind of thing you'd expect from Mac DeMarco title-wise.
Yeah.
Which, again, it's easy to fucking say that. It's easy to fucking say that that's Mac DeMarco's image, right?
Although he went for like a fucked up version of the jank face, if that makes any sense, for the album art for this.
He did, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
And it's like every time I want to say this, every time someone says, oh, that's just Mac DeMarco, man, that's just his image, that's how we know him, right? I just want them to listen to that 22-minute track.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you show me where in this Mario water level ass track is regular Mac DeMarco.
I just ate my 9th hot dog.
So there isn't a vinyl. There was pictures of vinyl and cassettes posted as a teaser to this being released, but it's not actually official. There is a shirt and a hoodie there.
It's 9 persons, 9 doors, 9 hot dogs. It's worth mentioning too again that this is our longest listen of any episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
12 hours.
Previous one was the caretaker.
Yeah. This is 12 hours, 12 minutes, and I think 3 seconds. I'd have to do the math again, but I think that sounds right.
I'm gonna make a 10-hour album just to spite both of you.
Good luck. I'm sure if you do enough sound collages, it would make it happen. There's a lot of sound collages in here too. A lot of like environmental stuff. Like he does everything as much as he can, I think.
Okay, so if you wanted this on vinyl, you would need at least 23 records.
Yes, the Mac DeMarco. It wouldn't even be a box set at that point. It'd be a shelf.
You might as well just throw in 5 EC hot dogs and make it 24, and then maybe get something for 25.
It reminds me, there was an old Chaser skit of you get the entire ABC News on DVD box set, and it was like 20 meters long.
But I can't imagine anything outdoing this for me. And so let's talk about something else. Let's talk about our conclusion to covering 100 gecs.
Yeah, so 100,000 gecs in the tree includes. Do you want to do the introduction, Dominic, since you picked this?
Yeah, this is my pick. This is the remix album released by 100 gecs in 2020, kind of there around the time of the pandemic, right after it's starting. This is kind of the thing I think that really blew them up beyond the wave of the initial album. Because you got a lot of like really popular artists on here, and like some lesser known, but like songs like Ringtone with Charlie XCX and Caro Caro Bonito had a lot of streams. Like Injury Reserve is on here with 745 Stickies remix. Mm-hmm. And of course you got fucking Fall Out Boy and Hand Crushed by a Mallet. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they're only on the intro of that song.
Yeah, but it's Fall Out Boy, right? Like that's.
I know.
Like if not that mainstream credibility necessarily matters, but that's wild to think about. You know, something like 100 gecs having that connection. Like what other album's gonna have H.E. Cook, Dorian Electra, Fall Out Boy, Injury Reserve, and Charlie XCX and Caro Caro Bonito?
My next album.
And then have it not just be a compilation.
I mean, this is still a compilation.
Yeah, but it's unified under the concept of it being the first album remixed plus a handful of I don't know if they're B-sides or just other stuff and like a couple live tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, I still prefer this to both the Mac DeMarco stuff that we've done this week. I think it comes under the same problems that most remix albums do for me, in which it's very inconsistent with how interesting some of the songs are.
Sure.
But putting into it, I put that Fall Out Boy remix as number 19 of my favorite songs of 2020, and I have no regrets for that. It's like it's mostly Nicole Dongager and Craig Owens on that remix, but just holy shit, it's so fucking good.
Yeah, it really goes off. And like you can see like, oh yeah, Black Dresses is here, you know, and there are a couple other ones that are really, really interesting, like the way that Stupid Horse is redone by GFOTY and Count Baldor.
Yeah, that's my least favorite of the whole remixes, and a lot of that is because of Girlfriend of the Year. I've really always struggled to get into her work. It's I don't know. It's something about her vocals and her flow, and just the way that her songs are produced that I just genuinely hate. And I don't know if it's intentional or not. But
Okay.
I could not get into it.
I just like how she was.
And the remix. I mean, yeah, I like that there's lyrical changes. It wasn't just cover the song, but I still think it just kind of sucks.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think the was it the other version of I Would Never Stop You is a lot less interesting than the Tommy Cash and Hannah Diamond version. I think the Rico Harbor 800 dB Cloud isn't an amazing exactly remix, and of course the Hand Crushed by a Mallet No Thank You remix is like not as interesting as the other one that exists.
Yeah.
So like by redoing, by having multiple versions, it's like, okay, one's clearly better than the other, but the other one is also closer. So if you care about that kind of thing, that does exist. But if you really want the weird and like the real spirit of what I think 100 gecs tries to do, you're gonna want those more wild out there remixes. Now, to mention the digital dish again, they do have a song called Toothless, which again extends the Tooth saga that they have going on throughout the discography.
Indeed.
Honestly, though, the B-side songs here, that I wanted them to be more interesting than they actually are, but they're just like they exist.
Yeah.
It's 100 gecs' least interesting release in the whole context of them, but it's still like 100 gecs remix album.
And like by covering this, we have covered 100 gecs for the most part. I think we've missed Sympathy for the Grinch, but we can cover that another time.
I mean, Sympathy for the Grinch, they performed as the encore at their show. It's a Christmas song. It's one of the best Christmas songs out there. There you go, it's been covered.
Well, we'll cover it in full. We'll want to listen to it at some point. Yeah. I'm not going to count until we do it. But in the meantime, we have Injury Reserve here with 745 Sticky. And what did we just listen to with Injury Reserve? We just did something with them.
Flume.
Yeah, so Flume. So, like, and then, of course, Skrillex was on Snake Eyes, and we did a bunch of Skrillex. So there's a lot of connections going on here. And Injury Reserve was just kind of there. And I kind of appreciate how much bands like that or acts like that kind of come up again and again when we cover other things like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to talk more about it, but it's really like this remix album has a couple of good remixes on it, and then it's just the rest is on there. I really do like the Charlie XCX and Kerry Benito remix of Ringtone. I think that's so. It goes to show just how the remixes on here at least actually go to show just how much 100 gecs actually knew what they were doing.
Yes.
On this record,
Yeah.
It shows that Ringtone is actually a really well crafted pop song. The Fall Out Boy remix as well actually shows that Hand Crushed by a Mallet is actually a pretty good pop punk song in its core. It shows like all the covers and the remixes show that the way that 100 gecs was or 1000 gecs the album was crafted. It wasn't just a sound collage of its randomness. It was
it's a style.
Actually properly constructed songs.
Mm-hmm.
I will say again, having the remix by Caro Benito and Charlie XCX is great because I think the Umru Ringtone remix just gives me anxiety, man. Having them do the fucking phone vibrate sound really just makes me look for my fucking phone.
I'm lonely. It doesn't bother me.
Like I just like my phone's ringing. Where is it? My phone is ringing somewhere. Someone answer it. So, like, if I can ever listen to that again, that'd be fine.
I don't really have anything else to say about this remix album, to be honest.
Favorites?
It's okay. I'd just rather listen to the original.
I kind of like it more than the original in some ways, but I don't know if it's as consistent. But favorites?
Fall Out Boy remix and the Charlie XCX remix. Don't mind the AG Cook remix of Money Machine either. Least favorite is Stupid Horse GFOTY remix.
Favorites, of course, the Fall Out Boy remix. I think the Injury Reserve remix is interesting. I like the GFODY Stupid Horse remix. The I Would Never Stop You from Tommy Cash and Hannah Diamond's pretty good. And some of the stuff that Dorian Electro was doing on Get to You, I kind of liked quite a bit. But I kind of have to agree. I think the digital edition extra stuff, other than the Ringtone Umru remix, is kind of where it sinks the most.
No real favorites, no real least favorites.
And somehow, I didn't think this would be the last album we talk about, but here we are this evening. Going back once again to TISM.
Yes, Rigueurmortis, the next in the line of all the TISM albums that we eventually have to cover in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
First, the two-pot Screama, 40-minute rock opera on there, which is this crazy rock opera about this kid who gets lessons from politician Peter Reef on basically I was starting to take risks and started to be this kind of bad boy of the school.
And he just doesn't listen, ever.
Yeah.
And by doing that, he essentially kind of embodies it anyway.
I think this might be my favorite of the week.
Two-pot Screama or Rigueurmortis?
Two-pot Screama.
Well, we'll start off with two-pot Screama because I agree. I think this is just really fucking funny.
Yeah.
Two-pot Screamer is like the best thing TISM might have done.
Yeah.
And, you're a big fan of TISM.wanker here.
I was a big fan of TISM.wanker. But it's not going to make my top of my list because I think the Rigueurmortis itself is the weakest since the White Album.
Oh, I fully agree with that on Rigueurmortis. I think I think if Two-Pot Screamer didn't exist, I wouldn't pick Rigueurmortis because Rigueurmortis is a better EP than it is an album.
Yeah. So Two-Pot Screamer is really the thing to talk about.
Yeah, and it's just fucking funny. Starting off with the dude's dad saying, "Turn on the TV. Peter Reef is on Kerry O'Brien tonight."
Yeah.
And
like I don't know who the fuck Kerry O'Brien is, but I can just imagine that fucking shit of
he's a news reporter / interviewer.
Yes,
BBC.
I figured as much, but like having like your parents just turn to the politics and you're not at that age where you don't quite get it or quite want to pay attention.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of forced to sit there and like take it in, and that's when he's kind of, in a sense, he's being approached by the devil to be a bad boy, but he's being approached by Peter Reef.
Yeah. And obviously, one of the most surreal things about this whole rock opera is the amount of times that Peter Reef is mentioned. However, due to what was probably legal advice, it's not quite sure if it was for humor or legal advice, but I'm thinking with a lot of the content that they say in there, it 100% had to be legal advice. They've beeped out the song anytime his name is mentioned.
And his introduction song, it's really interesting that they do that because it's literally
it goes it's something like getting kicked in the teeth, and it's like, my name's beep beep beep, because it's like they're chanting Peter Reef.
And it's timed just well enough where it almost works on its own. But it kind of doesn't fit, but it fits just well enough that I'm not like mad about it.
But it's this whole rock opera in a whole is, they don't do this kind of like bullshit. They're explaining what's happening of it. You're getting the idea that it's actually just characters doing their own musical. So you actually get some kind of like visualness in your head to it. It's fucking funny.
Yeah, it's all dialogue based.
It's an incredibly well done rock opera. Is probably the funniest thing about this.
I'm going to send this to my father, I think. I need to hear his take on it.
And
I also like at the end where TISM's doing the whole chanting of what's happening, and then the fight starts, and they keep going fight, 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 and there would be some irrelevant dialogue that's just happening in there, and they just won't continue back to it. They'll just keep going back, fight, fight, fight.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't stop until the one of the main characters chickens out, and they go wuss, wuss, wuss.
Yes. But there's the moment where they fucking talk about his dick.
But they randomly, it's one of the few times where dick humor is just funny.
And it's like shocking too,
It's pretty much always funny
because they keep harping on it.
Yeah, that's part of the legal shit in here, because it seems almost like they're calling Peter Reef a pedophile.
Yeah, they very come close to doing that.
Yeah, although I still think the absolute fucking best moment of this whole rock opera is where Peter Reef's character goes and talks about how he agrees with John Howard that saying sorry is a waste of time, and it's done in this context of like they've done a bad thing, but it's like don't take the blame for it or anything like that.
Yeah,
and it's just an absolute fuck you to Peter Reef and John Howard and their views on the Aboriginals.
oh.
But like, yeah, so the story basically is Brendan comes, he's approached by Peter Reeve and is told all this stuff, and he's like, I can show you a lot of things. I'm going to introduce you to this guy named Tupac Screama, and he'll be introduced to you know when. And of course, the next day at school, there's this kid Jason. He's this bad boy tagger. He gets.
Are you two aware as well what a Tupac Screama is?
No.
It is someone who gets drunk off two pots of beer. And,
2 beer clear.
Yeah, and a pot in Melbourne is how many sides? I'm just gonna quickly check what the it is 285 milliliters.
Okay, not much.
So yeah, so getting basically half a liter of beer, you're getting drunk off.
Yeah,
that's me.
So that's what a 2-pot screamer is, and obviously it's basically somebody who's drinking underage. So of course they'll get fucking drunk that quick.
And in this instance, it is Jason's tag. It is his cool name, his graffiti artist name. And it's like once he's introduced, is that everyone just starts calling him that, even though I don't know if they would all know that, but that doesn't matter necessarily. And they're fighting over the same girl, and it doesn't really establish if they're friends before, maybe not, but they're friends, and then they're not friends because Brendan doesn't want to like lie and say that this gang that Jason just talked about, they're gonna come get you if you rat on them and say shit about them. And sure enough, when he's blamed for fucking tagging, that's the one he goes to. And and Brendan doesn't want to do that. He wants to be more altruistic and be like, no, it was me. And that's what fucking starts the fight and all that shit. And then the gang comes in later on and starts chasing after Jason. And it's just like,
yeah. And there's a very important thing of the gang, of that gang's name as well, the Nips. And it's actually it's a pretty ambiguous gang to be doing that, because Two-Pot Screamer is obviously in reference to a pot of beer, but a nip is also a unit of beer as well, which is roughly, and apparently according to UK with the alcohol measurements. Actually here it's saying for AU, a nip is 30 milliliters of beer. But if you actually also search up nip in slang, not of that, it's also an ethnic slur against Japanese people.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting, because they do reference them as like an Asian gang, and they kind of say some shit that's like, I don't know if that's entirely culturally appropriate, but yeah,
it's also
it's a reference to both it being an Asian gang and the name being a reference to a measurement of beer.
It's also in the US, a nip is also another name for one of those little single shot bottles of booze.
Well, there's a very popular song in Australia. It's one of those older ones. It's not like currently Top of the Pops or anything like that. By a band called Mental as Anything, called The Nips Are Getting Bigger, which in the US they thought that was they meant that we were just talking about someone's nipples getting bigger, but it was actually about beer getting the sizes of beer.
Interesting. But yeah, like they just pulled off this entire rock opera, like having never really attempted anything like this and never really doing anything like it again.
And this was only on the CD release, if you got the deluxe edition.
Yeah, and this is towards the end of their career. Like we talked about, was the White Album secretly a bunch of B-sides that they never really like got to put out, right? So in a sense, like this really is like their last big thing, their last huge like fuck yeah, we got it moment. Because there's some
it's a fucking great rock opera.
Because there's some good songs on Rigueurmortis, but like nothing comes together like it does for Two Pot Screama.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I listened to this whilst down in Melbourne, literally on the and it was great when I was listening to it down in Melbourne because they was talking about being in Springvale, and I was literally on the Springvale line as I was listening to that. And it made the trip go faster. I'll tell you, it did not feel like this was a 40-minute song. This was just engaging enough for the whole fucking thing.
Yeah,
I agree.
I am curious about the screaming that happens in the beginning. There's just like a few minutes of just screaming, and it's like really anguished screaming too, like almost like a yodel even.
The kind of thing that's happening at the fucking start.
I also just had to note a couple moments where like the lyrics really fall flat for some reason in like a weird way. Like when you have Stephanie, the girl, watching the fight.
That's one of the moments I was talking about where she randomly professes her love or something for the main character, and then TISM just go back and say fight, 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 fight.
She's like, so, Brendan seems like the one for me, in like the most basic bitch way possible.
Yeah, I think that's more just trying to rip on like as TISM usually do, just putting a rip on the whole culture of fighting and
right,
and especially in schoolyards. I don't think there's really supposed to be much more to that.
No, it was just one of those moments like, that must be like a specific choice because their lyrics generally are not that like, my name is Clunky and I'm here to say I like food in a major way kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really all it is. Yeah, it's not the most well written, but I think they're also not trying to rate these characters as intelligent.
Yeah, they're 14, 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Which actually goes onto one of the opening songs in Rigueurmortis. If you're not famous at 14, you're finished.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, have we got anything else more to say about Two Pot Screama, or should we actually talk about Rigueurmortis?
Two Pot was really good.
Yeah, Two Pot was really good.
Shout out to,
you say first.
I was gonna say shout out to both albums, comping the Yes style.
Yeah, that is definitely something they So Rigueurmortis, it's definitely, if we're going to compare it to the White Album, which I think is probably the fairer one to compare it to since it's both later in the career, Rigueurmortis is definitely more of an album, but White Album has definitely a lot more interesting going on in there. This one it's different to all their deluxe editions because all their deluxe editions have all the poetry and all the jokes and stuff like that in the second half of it, whilst the first album and stuff will all be the more commercial side of the whole TISM releases. Whilst here, this is full of interludes that happen in there that completely replace the poetry. And
like some of it's kind of poetry in a sense too, though.
There is definitely some funniness to the interludes as well. A lot of it kind of putting the scene of this cricket ground and a cricket player who's fumbled, and they just yell, "Who the fuck blew that plastic trumpet?"
Yeah.
Or like the man.
It's funny. It's not. The songs aren't themselves that great, but it's funny.
Or like the Man from Popular Culture came around. Like that feels like one of the classic like Hitler Barassi kind of just monologues.
And I'll be directly honest about Rigueurmortis as an album itself compared to all of the TISM that we've listened to and all the TISM that I've listened to. This is my least favorite TISM release. Outside of Two Pot Screama, remove that, and I'm kind of considered Two Pot Screama to be its own thing. As Rigueurmortis itself, it's my least favorite TISM album. I think it is a bit overblown, and whilst there is funny moments on there, there's not that hard-cutting satire that there is on tism.wanker.com or Machiavelli in their Four Seasons.
Mm-hmm.
There's not as much interesting, well-written rock / pop songs as well as there are on the White Album.
Yeah.
It's definitely no great trucking songs of the Renaissance as well.
God, that is such a. I still can't get over how great a title that is.
But that being said, there is still some pretty fucking good moments on this, and I think even at TISM's worst, they still have some high quality TISM songs. You can't go and tell me and say that Honk If You Love Fred Durst is not a banger.
It is a banger.
I mean, and Comeback DJ record is scratched.
Yeah, at the end of that, where it's literally just a scratch DJ, scratch record, sorry, and it repeats itself for a minute, for like a minute nearly.
But also just the balls of just sampling Kung Fu Fighting.
Yeah.
And like giving it almost like an Avalanches vibe.
Mm.
Which I guess, they've never really made fun of the Avalanches, but that would be like a contemporary of this pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, there's as we're talking about, there was a song "If You're Not Famous at 14, You're Finished," which kind of talks a bit about breaking into the industry of just art in general, and how kind of like bullshit it kind of mostly is. I mean, the first song is called "Bullshit" anyway, and it opens up with this kind of fake announcer going, "Welcome to Countdown. Here's TISM." Which, if you don't know what Countdown was, it was hosted by Molly Meldrum back in like the 80s or maybe even fucking earlier, maybe 70s, for a long time. And it was basically, you know how like MTV or something, I think would probably do, I don't know what the big music channels are in the United States, would do music videos for like the top 10 hits of the week or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what Countdown was.
Gotcha.
And for some reason, I don't think TISM were ever on the top 10 of Australian music.
They should have been.
I mean, in the top 10 for Triple J once.
Yeah.
That was about as best as they could. But when you write songs like
Devacate in My Face.
Yeah, you're not going to get much radio play.
No.
Another interesting moment.
I don't think that's what they're trying to do, but yeah.
Another interesting moment that's always fun to point out too is just the intermission, where they cut out for just 3 minutes and treat it like it's some kind of like stage play or something. Like, we're going to take an intermission now, and they just really make you wait 3 minutes. And it's like, I appreciate like the boldness of that. If it was on a more interesting album, I think that would be like a really interesting moment to reflect. But
yeah, I think this is. I mean, it's an album that has 31 tracks on it, but it doesn't really feel like it has 31 tracks. It feels like really only a couple of these songs are actually full, completed songs.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a lot of interludes. There's a lot. It is an overblown record, and that's why it is probably my least favorite TISM record.
I gotta give it.
It's one of those, like, you're there for the highlights, you're not really there for the full record.
I gotta give it to Another Hinge Diatribe, though. Because they references back to, I think it's Great Trucking Songs, where they have the one about the guy going to jail, right? Where Hitler Barassi has the whole monologue about, I don't even remember, it's like, things are good until that guy goes to jail.
I also fucking love when we're going to the opening songs in here, and the actual opening to this album makes it feel like it's going to be a lot better than it ends up, and I still like this album, but yeah, 5 yards is like just fucking funny. You're always 5 yards away from the fuckwit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Schoolie's Week was interesting because it has like the whole kids chorus and stuff.
Yeah.
But this really feels like the moment where like a lot of their stuff kind of just didn't hit the same, right? Like I think BFW was a great like ending because similar to Peter Reith and Tupac Screama, BFW censors them referencing Kylie Minogue because she was on the same label.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having them kind of just go for the bleep and have it be like, oh, that's too hot to handle kind of thing was something new for them, right? For such a band that had so much going on. So like that still felt new, but
I mean they've always had issues with censorship. I think I've talked about the Australia the Lucky Cunt album art before, where the artist actually got that removed because it was Ken Doan or something, I think it was. And it was Kerala done in his style with the syringe in its mouth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Ken Doan sued them, or it got the law involved for that one, and I had to recall the physical releases of the album and release it with a new album art.
But what was I saying?
I still love that one though because they edited Sinead O'Connor tearing up the picture of the Pope, and they changed it to Sinead O'Connor tearing up a TISM album.
Yeah, that's more fitting, probably.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is that they have some of that stuff that's new, but it just feels like they're fizzling out for me at this point. Of like, yes, they've mixed everything together, but the songs are not as good as they were, and I don't know. Like, do we need 3 parts of You're a Long Way from Home and who the fuck blew that plastic trumpet?
No, I agree. I think it's funny the first time, but we don't need the full. Like it could have been one song really. It didn't need to be stretched out into other parts, and maybe there is just a lot of here that we would have preferred, as if it was in like a deluxe part of the album. But
yeah,
it's just the album I guess we got here. I think I can't really disagree with anything that you're saying. It is a more fizzled out TISM album. There's not that much sharpness to their humor outside of their songs as there were on previous records. Like, it almost feels like we wouldn't get a song like Thunderbirds Are Coming Out on this album.
No. Instead we got Thou Shalt Not Britney Spears, which I feel like should have been a lot more.
Yeah, and it's probably one of those ones that probably holds up even less with all the context around Britney now.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, how is Hot Dogma?
So I've never actually listened to Hot Dogma in full.
Well, that's gonna be our next adventure at some point in the future, I'm sure.
It will be. There is a lot of TISM to still go on here. There is a bunch of early demo albums and EPs which have been re-released as well. I mean, we haven't done the Beast of Suburban yet, which that one is a parody of the band name The Beast Suburban, because that one would probably be quite lost in you because the Beast Suburban were definitely not known outside of Australia because they were hardly known in Australia.
Fair enough.
The Cruel Sea though was a bit more known, and that was a related band. Yeah, there's obviously Hot Dogma to cover. Part of me is tempted to buy the Defecate on My Face single box set because that comes with a full CD of all the songs in there as well, which includes the B-side, which is the studio recording of Def, Amway, Amway, Amway.
Ooh,
interesting. There's a couple of live albums as well. Their last ever official live show before they ended in 2004 or something like that. On behalf of TISM, I would like to concede that we lost the election, where they basically turned the show into a DJ set.
And then there's like the tracks they released when they re-released Rigueurmortis too.
Yeah, so there's there was a lot that needs to still be covered in TISM. I think you are right. I think Hot Dogma is the next step because it's kind of the last of the studio albums, I believe. I could be wrong about that, so let me quickly check that up. TISM's discography. What have we still got to cover album wise here? Come on, Wikipedia! Don't you dare let me down. No, it is just Hot Dogma.
Yep.
But yeah, then we've also got all the EPs, which is Australia, The Lucky Cunt, Form and Meaning, Reach Ultimate Communion, all the singles, which have a shit ton of B-sides and stuff on them as well, the live albums, the demo albums,
I don't even think
shit. There is a lot to cover with TISM, and I usually wouldn't do demo albums and stuff like this, but they actually have a lot of interesting sounds in their demos that I think is worth talking about, especially since their demos have their original lyrics as well.
Yes, okay, yeah, I'm interested. I think we never even covered the last bonus tracks off of Machiavelli either, I don't think. I think we ended that one.
No, that was just during the regular album. I mean, that was the first fucking TISM that we did in the first album that I chose.
Yeah, we see if we could find the track Russia too. Because that one got removed.
But yeah, we are surprisingly after. I didn't think after the. I know, Dominic, you were a bit more positive than Trix was in the first episode, but I didn't think after the first episode that we'll do almost all TISM's studio discography. But we're one album away.
And we're at episode 130. Think about that.
Till then, though, favorites and least favorites. Favorite, gotta be 5 Yards and Honk If You Love Fred Durst. Beep beep. Least favorite? Yeah, probably Thou Shalt Not Britney Spears.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I agree with the least favorite. My favorite's probably BFW, Honk If You Love Fred Durst, DJ Come Back Your Record Scratch, Come Back DJ Record Scratch. I like The Man from Popular Culture Came Around. Which we have to mention too that the titles are way different in Wikipedia versus what is on the thing. So if I am saying tracks that are unfamiliar, I apologize. But yeah, some of the other stuff is probably my least favorite, but Thou Shalt Not Britney Spears just feels weird here.
Yeah.
And then the favorite out of all of this is Tupac Screama.
Oh yes, Tupac Screama obviously is the best part.
Tupac Screama is the best part.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's everything from this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I'm gonna start the rankings first because it's probably gonna be the least surprising out of all of them. So absolute least favorite out of all of this is 5 Easy Hot Dogs. Then I'm going to put this is where it gets pretty hard for ranking all of them, and it's starting to go into context. And I think it could fluctuate, but I'm actually gonna put Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooly as the next one on there because it has the least amount of songs out of all of them and is probably as interesting if we're going for the full way of them. I think I had to give awards for the other two for having a lot more songs with them. Then I'm gonna have to go and put One Wayne G, and then I'm gonna put D Rigueurmortis. I know that's definitely going to be a contentious call between you two, but that's just what I'm gonna have it as. Then I'm going to put the remix album above all of that. Not by much, but it's just going to be above all of that, but mostly held together by Hand Crushed by a Mallet. And then obviously number one is going to be Tupac Screama.
Okay. Trek, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Sure. Starting at the bottom, 5 Easy Hot Dogs, D Rigueurmortis, 1000 gecs and the Tree of Clues, Guitar Fight from Fooly Cooly Draught, One Wayne G, and then Tupac Screama.
Okay. Bottom, I will agree, is 5 Easy Hot Dogs. Then I'm going to put Drought EP. Then I'm going to put 1000 gecs and the Tree of Clues. I'm combining D Rigueurmortis and Tupac Screamer to be my number 2. And the number 1, of course, is One Wayne G.
Okay, but if you didn't combine them, where would Tupac Screama be? Would that still be number 2?
Tupac Screama would be number 2. Did Rigueurmortis would probably be either before or after Drought.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And with that, that's the week.
That's the week. It's over. It's done.
That was a very long week.
I'm going to be hearing Mac DeMarco in my fucking dream.
That was so fucking much music. Holy shit.
Oh, God.
So what are we doing next?
I forgot to decide.
Well, I have a couple options. I'd like you guys to select between should we do something unknown and weird, or should we do something kind of that has a little bit of a popular following that's fun?
Unknown and weird.
Unknown and weird.
Okay, then we are going to be doing. Let me pull it up. It's a weird name. It's like Double Hell Deathmatch.
I just see a picture of Fireball whiskey.
Yes. Yep. Double Hell Deathmatch. I was 2021. It's their 2022 album called 2021. And that's Double Hell Deathmatch. Their 2022 album 2021.
Okay, hold on. There's a lot of shit here. Hold on.
Yes.
I don't even see it on their Bandcamp.
It's on YouTube Music. That's what I'm going off of.
Hold on. Double Hell. Double Hell Deathmatch 2021. It's on Spotify at least, so I can figure it out. Okay.
Yes.
Released January 1st, 2022, according to Spotify. Interesting. Okay.
Dominic, you wanna pick yours?
Yeah, so I've decided to do something very different this time around.
Okay.
This is an idea I've been floating around, and I wanted to do it now as a just kind of a palate cleanser for the massiveness of One Way and G. And if I can direct your attention to the Google Drive.
Okay.
I have uploaded a mixtape playlist for y'all.
All right.
In this playlist, there are 16 songs. It's about over an hour of music. And if I did it right, none of them have titles and none of them have the artists' names.
Oh boy.
I'm downloading this now.
So, what I will say is that these are all singles that, as of right now, are not on a proper album or anything like that.
Are they all different artists?
Probably.
Cool.
I will say there is a complete work in this list. It's been curated and sequenced by me, but there is a complete work in this. But it is ambiguous enough as to what the nature of it is, whether it's an EP, an album, or a single, that I decided to include it anyway. But yeah, I would like to see, without cheating and like trying to look at the metadata or something like that, how much you two can piece it together.
Oh God. I am intrigued.
Yeah, I think this is the best pick you've done in a fucking while here, and you've done some good picks. I'm not gonna act like you haven't.
I'm just looking at 1 through 16 right now in the downloads, and it's just what the fuck. I am intrigued.
And hopefully, if things go correctly, we can talk through it track by track. And I will say some artists might be repeated, some might not. We might have covered some of these, we might not. There's a chance you might not know some of these artists, and there's a chance you might know them very well.
Now, I'm going to actually suggest a title for this album.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this a compilation album to make this even better. And we're going to call this Now This Is Dominic.
Sure. Let's call it that. Sure.
And Now This Is Dominic, Volume 1. Trix, could you be a dear and can you make the album art for that at some point?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we're gonna properly credit the artists and the songs next week when we talk through them, of course. But the magic of this is that you don't know, and I want you to see how close you can get. If either of you get over 60% correct, and what I mean by that is there's 32 things you can get correct. You can get all of the song titles and all of the artists. If you get at least 60% correct, the person who gets the most correct, I will let choose not my next pick, but the pick after that.
That's fair.
Yes.
Okay, well, whilst we got that hype in, I'm going to, since we got probably a bit of focus on this, I'm going to restrict myself to one pick here. And someone literally just messaged me 8 minutes ago saying this album is unreal, and it's 24 minutes long, so it's quick enough that I won't ruin it, but it is a 2023 pick, so it's something new, and it's a new Jerome's Dream album, The Grey in Between.
Jerome's Dream?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Because they keep messaging me to listen to this album, and I haven't listened to it yet, so now I'm going to listen to it.
All right.
Okay. So that means this week we have picked Double Hell Death Matches 2021, released in 2022. We have Jerome's Dreams, The Grey in Between. And we have my mystery playlist. Now this is, what is it? Now This Is What I Call Dominic, Volume 1.
Now That's What I Call Dominic, the Volume 1.
Now That's What I Call Dominic, Volume 1. And if no one has anything else to say, I think that'll do it for us this week.
Why is one of the songs on Now That's What I Call Dominic 15 minutes long?
I don't know. Why is it 15 minutes long?
Shit.
I will. Okay. If you can also figure out what is the complete work in here, there might be bonus points. How about that too?
Okay.
Now, okay.
Until then.
I'm in Dominic. Okay. You can catch me online on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. I am on YouTube, Dominic Chikoki, but there's not really much worth looking at there. I'm also on the Mini-Me Discord, and I'm sometimes on the Games My Mom Found podcast here and there. We're going to do a Kingdom Hearts 2 in an episode pretty soon, so yeah.
I have been Tricks. You can catch me on Twitter if it's somehow still standing. I'm like a cockroach. I won't ever leave that site. If not, I will have migrated to whatever flavor of Twitter is this week, whether it be like Blue Sky or some Mastodon server. I don't know. Yeah. Buy our merch. We have a clock with our shit on, with our logo on it, and go to our website dissonantwaves.space.
And I'm just saying out right now, I'm trying to delete all the metadata from this from these files without fucking looking at it. And it's possible, but it's
saved.
Yeah. Well, I'm listening through Musically, and Musically shows the metadata, and I could just see like a couple things popping up, and I'm like, all right, don't look at that. That's gonna ruin the fun. So
Gotcha.
I'm just currently fucking.
I appreciate you doing that. I was considering running them through Audacity to see if I could scrub them further, but I just didn't have time.
That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been Ritalin. You can catch me on my website, ritalinforkids.github.io. I also have a YouTube channel that's in the description below. I am now scrubbing 11 more files.
No, see, now that I know that that's the way to do it, I can probably do that in the future. So I apologize to make you do that.
Some of them have absolutely no metadata, so it's all easy for that, which is good.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
All right, Trick, don't cheat, please.
I won't. I'm using Groove Music on Windows 10.
I could do that too, and I would have made it a bit easier. But I like.
Yeah. My hope is that when you play it on whatever music player you play, it just shows up as 1 and 2 and so on and so forth. That's my hope.
Yeah.
There is an image, but that's about it.
Hopefully the image gets deleted, but if not, well, I don't know.
Well, it's not much to go on. I'll say that much.
I'm going to edit some of the metadata in here so it at least shows up. It's like, hey, this isn't just 8.mp3. It will be like Dominic's pick 1 or something like that.
Sure.
I'm leaving the numbers, and I just have the image that I'm too lazy to remove, but I'm not going to like reverse image search it or anything.
Well, if you have tips for me, if I want to do this again, Ritz, let me know. We could talk more about that.
Yes. But until then, have a nice week, everybody.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.